The story of deforestation and the pillaging of natural resources in the Chiquibul National Park is one that has been chronicled by many journalists over the years. But how many people can actually say they understand the extent of the damage or can even conceptualize the scope of this problem? This for sure I can tell you are a selected few, because if you haven't personally traveled to the affected areas, you wouldn't know for sure. Our experience started at 8:20 on the morning of April 20th, when we arrived at the Caracol Archaeological Site to meet up with Rafael Manzanero, the Executive Director for Friends of Conservation and Development, and Derek Chan, Chiquibul National Park Manager, and members of the FCD and the BDF.
In the map that we referred to you guys yesterday, you notice that there's a set of activities that are taking place in the area. And so if we are able to reach that far, certainly you'll be able to see the milpa farms that are occurring as a result of the expansion of the agricultural incursions into the Chiquibul area. You will be able to see also some cattle heads inside of the area, fence, a couple of huts, and you will also hopefully be able to see in some of the areas we have basically documented also marijuana in some of these fields. Along the route you will be able to find some other agricultural fields. One more farther south into, as we approach more into the Cebara area, that's where you will see more activities.
After being briefed on safety and health protocols, we ventured off into the densely forested Chiquibul National Park for an 8-hour hike that would see us taking 5 needed rest stops to cover 16 miles. The furthest, according to Manzanero, a media crew have accompanied the FCD into the Chiquibul. Traversing through the forest, we came up on the words "Los esperamos" carved into this tree. It means "we await you," and was left there by Guatemalans directed at the BDF and FCD rangers. Once we emerged from the forest, it was clear to be seen that huge plots of lands were being prepared by Guatemalans for milpas. Using the slash and burn method, they cleared these lands within days, evidenced by fresh ash and burning logs. Two components associated with deforestation are the agricultural incursions and illegal harvest of timber and non-timber products from the forest.
What you can see is basically the expansion of the agricultural frontier. Normally we have been informing to the public, through the media houses, that agricultural farming is pretty much one of the major problems that we face in the Chiquibul. You must have realized also how rigorous it is, and that's why it's so difficult in terms of how to access and be able to control this. But we can try as much in terms of trying to inform the people in Guatemala, and also if they were to be found here on location on the Belizean border, then certainly it warrants for us to be able to detain them and to be able to take them out.
The Chiquibul, and Belize by extension, is being raped of its natural resources, and it has been continually happening. A 2013 study titled "Targeting Agricultural Incursion Through Monitoring and Enforcement" cites that agriculture encroachments in the Chiquibul forest appeared around 1985 and have continued to penetrate deeper into Belizean territory. Manzanero told us that the only way they can arrest the situation is for more resources to be pumped into the effort, and also for multi-agency partnerships to foster stronger relationships.
What we have seen is that there are particular areas that are still within the 1 kilometer, but for some reason they will not use it again. So they keep on just moving to another area. It can be north or south of one plot that they might be using. Okay, let's call it this year. If they were to use, for example, that is a wamil there, right? So you could assume that they could have used that, but no, they will go back again and burn another piece, and like that consecutively they are moving. So in some aspects you will see that they will be moving north or south of a particular zone that has been used. However, there would be some kind of markers that demonstrate that there would be some openings, some areas that have already been cleared, quite far from a given zone which is already cleaned. In other words, you will see one which is popping out about 4 kilometers from here. What we have been able now really to analyze is that in those cases, it could be marijuana plantations that are taking place, within valleys where it's very, very difficult also to be able to see it. So if you were to be passing here, if we had stayed not a couple of an hour and a half, if we had walked back there, you would be able to see then, behind this mountain, you would be able to see other milpas, and there you would see a mix of the corn and then also marijuana.
If left unchecked, the Chiquibul, and by extension, other protected areas in Belize, is at risk of being pillaged. Manzanero says more conservation posts needs to be constructed at strategic locations.
We need really to be much more, of course, more strategic. And one of those recommendations, which I hope is going to happen soon, is then the installation of the Sebara conservation post, which should be somewhere around the zones here. We're already on the area of Sebara. So the idea is really because we know there's a pronounced activity. So if we were to have a permanent presence, then certainly it's much more easier to any of us really than really to just move from there and conduct the patrols instead of coming hiking every 2 days way down here. It's rather difficult. So that's the situation right now.
The increase in agricultural encroachments in Sapote 1 and 2 areas suggests these areas needs attention. Whether that attention comes sooner than later is ultimately left up to the government. After all, they are responsible to keep our borders intact. Reporting for Krem News, Orson Picart.